Welcome to the Twin Cities Business Show. Today we're talking to Michele Henry of FACE Foundry. FACE Foundry's grown from one store in the Galleria to more than 170 planned locations across the US. We talk a little bit about how her passion for the beauty industry, combined with her success in finding the right franchisees, has turned them into the growing company they are today. Welcome to the Twin Cities Business Show. We are here today with Michele Henry, the CEO and founder of FACE Foundry. Michele, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So today you guys are opening your 78th location around the country. In the next couple of years, you're going to be at 170 plus locations that you have committed today and maybe more. Tell us a little bit about what FACE Foundry is before we get into how you've grown.
Yeah, we're an efficient and effective focus facial bar. We're an open air concept where you can come in and get approachable services at a very approachable price point.
So one of the things that I understand you guys have done that has been a little bit different from people that have visited is you just have a much more efficient system, and you've built in a way that allows for there to be more spaces for people to get care in each location. Can you tell us a little bit more about those decisions and how those sort of went into creating the space you did today?
For sure. So I'm going to take you back to 2019, March 1st, 2019. We opened our doors in Edina. And it wasn't always just a facial bar. We had a facial bar, and then we had an actual bar where you could go get juice.
And this is at the Galleria?
This is at the Galleria. My thought process was, people will love having their facials done and then come over to get some green juice or something healthy. And it was very obvious early on, nobody wanted juice. People wanted facials. And so we had to shut down 10 days in, and we put 3 more service beds in. So it's an open air concept. You don't actually have walls dividing the beds. You have nice curtains. So that was part of the concept, is having that efficiency and making sure that you could kind of walk in, understand the concept quickly without having kind of the walls that felt like a little bit more exclusive and not really an understanding of what was going on right behind the scenes.
So 10 days in, you guys scrap your whole plan. You literally rebuild the store. Take me through those first 10 days and how you arrived at that.
Well, I drastically underestimated the shelf life of juice, first and foremost. Second, I didn't realize the demand was going to be so strong for approachable facials. That price point, I think we hit a sweet spot at the right time where people were just getting into wellness. And that was really obvious. Juice was great, but the margins weren't nearly the same as having a 40-minute treatment where you could add on enhancements or products. So it was kind of no comparison. And to be honest, it was my first take at this business and this layout. The bar faced where the services were. And so it was really awkward when you're sitting down getting a juice and you kind of felt like people were watching you when you were getting a facial. So I learned a ton, but I also paid for it 10 days in, right? Because I had to restructure the whole layout, which was a good learn.
So that's just a really quick pivot, and seems like it was a good one. I want to get into a little bit to franchising, because you guys now have this kind of wild scale that you've achieved through your franchising model. Did you know you wanted to do franchising early on? And when did you arrive there and why?
Yeah, day one, I knew I wanted to franchise. Actually, if we take a step back, my previous concept that I had, which was a women's clothing chain, I wanted to franchise that concept. So I'd always been interested in franchising, and I loved the idea of providing a playbook and a blueprint for someone that has that entrepreneurial spark. So that was my goal from day one. Now, we opened March 1st, like I mentioned, 2019. In order to file, or you should file with a full year's worth of numbers when you franchise. So you've got your franchise disclosure document. We were set to file March 1st, 2020. Went to go launch the franchising program, and the world forced us
Was something
to
going
shut
on
down.
in March of 2020?
No, I don't remember. I think we all blocked it out.
So there, you brought this up, but you started Primp, the boutique, and I was very curious about how that played into your decision to do franchising here. So you actually had wanted to do franchising with Primp. Take us through a little bit about why that didn't happen and how it kind of led you to here.
Yeah, great question. So we got pretty far to franchise Primp. We were looking to file our FDD, and when you really peeled back that business, There were a lot of not complexities, but decisions that needed to be made by the franchisee that could potentially impact the brand. For example, we would move through hundreds of thousands of SKUs. So when you're going and you're picking out clothing like the blazer you have on, right? There's a million different colors, a million different ways you could order it. Some of those nuances back in, 2010, 2015, when we were looking into franchising, there wasn't a good way to streamline it. It was a little bit too complex. So we hit the pause button. I knew that whatever I did next, I wanted to franchise it, but it had to be simple enough where you could follow that playbook and not have too many decisions fall on the franchisee that would become overwhelming,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Definitely. Um, can you take people a little bit through what is an FDD? What goes in it? Why is it important? Why does it matter?
I love franchising, so I get right into the
Great.
details. So, an FDD is a franchise disclosure document. Every legitimate franchise out there has one. Most of the time, they're public, so you can look it up on the state's website. In Minnesota, you can. And it walks you through all of the logistics, all of the numbers behind what it would take to open that business. And of course, a lot of legal compliance of everything that the franchisor and the franchisee will be held to.
So in your case, $50,000 to start a new location, correct?
Yes. When we launched, it was about 32,000, so it's jumped up a little bit, but
Okay.
that's correct.
And then you guys capture 7% of sales,
Yep.
flow back to the main corporate office,
Correct.
right?
That's a royalty.
Got it. And then, as I understand it, $425 a month through the SaaS platform that you guys have.
Yes, that's all of our tech,
Okay.
everything that you'd have access to. Um, I would say if anyone is interested in franchising in general, understanding an FDD is super crucial. But really, when you're looking at the bones of it, item 7 is extremely important to pay attention to. And that's going to tell you all in costs, what you need to go in and expect to pay, and the range that would be there. Every good FDD, every FDD actually has an item 7. Then you're going to look at an item 19, which is the expected revenues that you will generate. And not all FDDs have item 19s. Some of the most popular franchises out there, like Dave's Hot Chicken, they've been able to grow to 2,000 locations, and they just have great franchisees. We do have an item 19 listed, and that is really important to hone in on those numbers.
So if I'm looking at yours, I want to open a Face Foundry
Mhm.
franchise. What is in your item 7? What's in your item
Yeah.
19?
So item 7, great question. Anywhere from 350,000 to upwards of 600,000.
That's all in costs to the franchisee.
Correct. So that's all in, and that includes 3 months of operating capital. That includes the initial fee that you pay to us for the territory, and everything through construction, real estate, build out, all of the assets that you would put in that store to get your doors open.
And then in the 19,
19, our average AUV is upwards of 832,000.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
So most franchisees will see a profit in year 1.
I never like to make claims
Yes,
like
of
that.
course.
My
Yeah.
attorneys are listening, watching,
Yes,
going,
right. I just
She
scared
said
Kate
she said the
lawyers,
right thing."
but I got you guys billable hours, so we're good. Yeah. Um, so how do you pick where a franchise is going to go next? Like, how do you
Yeah.
pick a territory? How do you pick a person? I understand you say no sometimes, which I think is very interesting. Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, I think it starts with the prospective franchisee. We have them up for discovery day. They go through a whole lot of vetting and chatting with our sales team to make sure it's a good fit. And assuming we get there and it's a good fit, they fly up for discovery day where they meet our extended team and they really get a peek behind the curtain of what this franchise looks like, what we're going to provide, what are some of the assets, all of the departments. We really show them as much as we can. My question that I always ask franchisees is, do you want to be a part of something that is helping people and building their confidence? And what is your role in this? Because it's a give and take. And if they are not aligned perfectly with our mission and our vision and our values, and it's not something that they possess themselves, it's just not going to be a good fit. And
Mhm.
so it's saving everybody time. If that's something that we don't feel like it'll be a good fit on either side, it's okay. But we've been really successful in the fact that we've been able to identify franchisees that love the mission, that align with it, that want to be involved. They want to be that community notable, that leader in their store, that leader in their community. And that's really important.
How would you say that Face Foundry itself drives those values forward? Can you just lay out what they are, and then talk a little bit about how you guys are able to do that?
Yep. We have a lot of trust in our system, in ourselves, in each other. We believe in ourselves. We push, celebrating wins together. We are very communicative. We lean heavily on feedback. And so making sure that we also know each other's strengths. I want to know if you want to step in as a franchisee, do you love marketing? Do you love operations, inventory? Because then we can backfill and help you fill those gaps. And I think that's so important to just understand. I mean, a franchise agreement is a long time. It's usually 10 years. Ours at least is. So that's like a marriage, right? You want to make sure you know who you are going to be in business with, and we have these honest conversations right out the gate.
Yeah. Um, are any or many of your franchisees estheticians themselves, or are they mostly sort of business people that are just interested in the economics, or how does that shake out?
We've got 2 or 3 franchisees that are estheticians. Actually, one of our Nashville franchisees, our Nashville franchisee, she just went back and got her master esthetician at the age of 50. She was
Interesting.
not an esthetician before. She just wanted to make sure she could speak to the entirety of the business, which I love, but it's not a requirement.
Okay. And where are your most successful locations right now?
I would say we've got a lot of strong brand presence in the Twin Cities, in Chicago. Chicago was actually our first franchise to open in
Mm,
Bucktown, August 27th, 2021. Nashville is a great market for us. San Francisco is really strong. Um, Phoenix, we've got Austin, Dallas. We've got a lot of really strong markets that have good brand presence.
yeah. So with all this growth, you guys are growing really quickly. Um, Oftentimes, one bad experience can turn into a bad social media video that turns into something bad. How do you maintain quality control through all this and make sure that people are putting their best foot forward when they're doing this, and like really getting all the details right at the scale that you guys are working at?
So we actually had probably the queen of franchising, Rhoda Olson from Great Clips,
Okay.
speak at one of our conventions. And I'll never forget, she talked to us about the Great Clips client journey. And this was very early on. It made so much sense. We're like, we need to construct a client journey that leaves all the guesswork out to make sure that whether you are going to Sioux Falls or Sarasota, you are getting the exact same experience and that consistency's there. So we hone in very closely on our client journey and we hold all of our franchisees and their teammates accountable to that. So it's a nice guideline because it takes out all the guesswork.
Yeah. You guys launched a membership model, which I think is fairly unique in the industry. Maybe it's not that unique, but it was very interesting to me. Tell me a little bit more about launching, how your membership model works, how you decided to launch that, and why that's maybe worked out for you guys.
For sure. So it's a monthly membership, and every month a client can come in, pick one focused facial from our menu, and also receive then a complimentary enhancement. And your skin changes, so obviously the availability to pick different facials and different enhancements, that flexibility is really a great way to customize what your skin needs in that moment.
Mm.
You also get 10% off additional products and services. The membership model is great because you get to see consistency and results over time, which I think is so important. It's not just a one and done, go get a facial and your skin's fixed. Truly, our skin is our largest organ. It needs constant reinforcement and constant attention.
Interesting. Um, I'm also interested in this, 7% of sales from each franchise going to you guys. How do you talk about what you're doing with that money? Why 7%? Like, Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we were trying to be really meaningful when we decided on that royalty amount. And it's in line with a lot of boutique fitness and other service industry standards. We offer an exceptional amount of support at an HQ level. Training, education, continued coaching, however we can insert ourselves. We're also pumping out a lot of collateral, marketing, graphics, a ton of bundles every month to just make sure that you have exactly what you need. So there's a lot that goes into it. And I would like to say that for us, we are offering an exceptional amount for what they're paying in for royalties.
Um, the tech piece as well, I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah.
That you guys have, a licensed tech platform that is being used by the franchisees, and that as the franchises scale, you probably don't have a ton of additional costs in that, but it's mostly just sort of revenue that you guys can add.
We don't make money on tech.
Yeah.
If in fact we lose
You lose
quite a
money on
bit.
tech.
Oh yes.
Okay, so it
Like
just
our
helps cover part of the costs,
a fraction.
a tiny bit of
I mean, we
cost.
are constantly we're investing in tech so heavily. Our app, we're pushing out new updates constantly. Our
Mhm.
closest competitor in the facial space charges double what we do for tech. So we're trying to be I'm so frugal, I'm so
Yeah.
conservative. I mean, I started this business and we're debt free. I am 100% owner. I don't have any partners. And so it's really important to me to make sure that we are so financially frugal. And yeah, the tech component, I don't like increasing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think of myself as a franchisee. And so I'm constantly looking at our P&Ls going, if I were going to increase this, how would it impact everybody?
Yeah. So you own 100% of the business. You
Correct.
have no debt.
Correct.
Was that part of the plan? I mean, was that when you went into it, where you're like, this is exactly how this is going to work? Have you reached a point where you think maybe you guys won't have to raise money? Like, how are you viewing that ownership component, and then just how you scale it without taking in additional capital?
So, I mean, I lived through COVID. So all bets were off at that time, right? Like the goal was always to try to grow this and be debt free and not have anyone on the cap table. My previous business, though, Primp, you referenced,
Hmm.
and this is, pretty commonly known. Myself and my business partner, we were fresh out of school. We both came to the table with $8,000. And in 2010, you know how hard it was to find $8,000 after you have no collateral to bring. I mean, I think I used my broken car.
You were
but
how
like
old? Time?
25,
Okay.
24 maybe. It was a long time ago. But yeah, so growing that business debt free, it proves that to me, it can work. So that was my goal in starting Face Foundry. Like, okay, this is all I've really known. I haven't ever had to go out and raise outside capital. Let's see if we can do it again.
And you have.
I have, yes.
So ultimately, do you see that as something that you'll continue on for a long time? I mean, are you even imagining a world in which you guys could be acquired, or imagining a world where you guys could go public? Any further ambitions like that?
Public is an interesting thought, but I love this company. I dump every single penny back into it because I believe that we are on this trajectory now. And I can feel it and I can see it. And I always believe that if you love what you do, you should keep doing it. And so for me, I'm just going to keep doing it until I can't anymore,
Yeah.
until they say, you need to retire. You need to do something else. But until then, I mean, I feel like I'm continuously adding value and I hope that I continue to do that. But the day comes that I don't, I'm going to make sure that, I'm my own hardest critic.
Yeah. Why do you think your membership keeps growing? Why do people keep coming back? Like, what is it that people really like about you guys?
You know, it's funny. We talk about this a lot. Actually, we just talked about this as a leadership team. There's a lot of noise right now. You've got a lot going on, social media in the world. There's tons getting pushed at you from AI, and there's just a lot of chatter and a lot of noise. And there's not a lot of times where you get to say, 40 minutes, I'm going to turn off my phone, I'm going to relax, and I'm going to have a moment of solitude. And I think the facials and the results are there, but on top of that, people are finding that this is really a moment to just have to themselves. You don't get that a lot. Even in group fitness, even when you're out for a run, there's distractions. You've got earphones in. This is truly just you and your esthetician and focusing on how you can really calm down and take a step back.
Yeah. So just removing yourself from the noise of the world and detaching from social media and all that kind of stuff.
100%. It's to me, it's such a gift that I give myself every month.
Yeah. I read an interview, you were a little critical of some of the beauty influencer world not being very discerning about the products they use. Can you talk a little bit about that and just your general feelings and relationship with the whole beauty influencer world?
Yeah. I when I started Face Foundry, it was because I was struggling. I was going to med spas and I wasn't getting a lot of that education. Now, fast forward, almost every single person out there is a skin influencer, right? They've got some sort of link to a product. I always find that there's not a lot of transparency, and it's not to their own fault. It's probably just the fact that they have a lack of ingredient knowledge and product knowledge. And there's a lot of nuances that come with it. I mean, our estheticians are super, super intertwined with the ingredients and why you shouldn't mix them and some of the effects. And I've seen it firsthand. But you see a lot of, and my daughter, she's guilty of it. She wants to go to Sephora. She wants to buy the products from Drunk Elephant that have retinol. And it's like the worst thing you can do when you're 12 years old is strip your skin barrier. But we're seeing people that are 12 years old or 50 years old and they just don't know. And so being cautious about the advice that you're getting from people online that don't have an invested interest in you personally is always a little bit dangerous.
Yeah. And I think there's this larger, not even a trend anymore, but just this huge part of society that is just beauty and social media and self criticism all sort of wrapped into one. How do you approach that running a business that is sort of adjacent to that space and trying to do things in a better way?
Yeah.
How do you look at, that strain of society, and do you think it's a problem that will keep getting worse, or do you think there's a world in which it gets better, and how?
I mean, comparison is the thief of joy, right? And it's hard to shake that. I said it myself. I'm my own worst critic, right? Like I definitely think there's a place for Botox and filler, and you're not going to be able to get away from that. Our mantra at Face Foundry, though, is come as you are. Like all are welcome. The whole idea was be an inclusive place where people feel safe because we will meet you wherever you're at on your skincare journey. And so I think that's really important because there's not a lot of places you can step into and say, I know I'm going to be fully accepted. And I think that that's something that really does differentiate us.
Yeah. Um, when was the moment that you decided, I'm going to devote my life to caring for other people's faces?
I would say taking a step back, it's not just faces. Like even with Primp and making women feel beautiful in clothing, I think my mission in life is to make people feel good, make people feel confident. And it used to be just women, right? Because we'd only sell female clothing. Now stepping into Face Foundry, it's like, how do I make every person that walks in our door feel confident and feel good and feel a little bit better about themselves? I think that started a long time ago. Like I went through some old notebooks, like, my parents don't throw anything away. So I had a bunch of old notebooks from like 6th or 7th grade and I was like mixing eyeshadow colors. It was kind of written maybe a lot longer than I thought of like how I could piece together certain things. And there was always that underlying like love for beauty, love for fashion, but ultimately it stemmed from how do I make someone feel really good?
So even dating back to kind of when you were a teenager at
Yes.
Matamita High School, as we discussed.
The Zephyrs.
Yep.
Yes.
Wow. Um, do you think that this is a journey that, you know, you've done Primp, you've done Face Foundry, right? Do you think Face Foundry is the kind of thing where you say, this is the thing that I'm going to be doing the rest of my life? Or is it the kind of thing where you can say, I feel like I have a playbook for this now and I could potentially expand it into other industries or other fields?
I love what I do. And I'm sure people get to this point where they're like, okay, I've got a playbook. I'm going to start doing this, or I could roll it into restaurants or food or fitness. I have been really intentional, and this is something that I've been trying to promise myself, my kids. I'm not starting any more businesses, any more businesses. We can talk about Savant, but I've been really hyper focused on continuing to scale Face Foundry. And I think this is just, I feel like cosmically, the stars aligned when I started it, and I truly believe that, and I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and I'm always happy to help someone who wants to start franchising. I love the franchising model, and I've learned a ton, but I feel like I need to stay in my lane because it's working, and I love what I do.
So let's talk about Savant. You, since starting Face Foundry, have started another business to address one of the problems that you had at Face Foundry. Talk a
Correct.
little bit more about that.
That is correct. So 2022, what we were noticing, there was a little bit of lack of applicants at our locations here in the Twin Cities. And the applicants that we were hiring on, they all had varying degrees of capabilities and skill sets. And granted, you're held to kind of all the same standards with the cosmetology board through the state of Minnesota. But we were seeing people step in with just varying degrees. And some would take twice as long to train, others wouldn't. And so we decided, let's try to get ahead of this. What if we train people and we could expedite the training process? And we started Savant, and it's an aesthetic school. It only focuses on skincare and aesthetics. So no cosmetology, no massage, no nails, nothing like that. It's very hyper focused. And we see a lot of graduates, about 40% end up going to Face Foundry. That is not a requirement though. So we're going to try to just set them up for success no matter where they go, because I do believe that you're going to elevate the industry in general as long as you start with education.
So there's been this push, I think, in other states and at times in Minnesota around things like the cosmetology board, right?
Mhm.
Should there be a state licensing process? Does the way that we have it structured right now make sense? Or is there a better way for us to get more people working in this industry?
So they made a change. The Minnesota Cosmetology Board made a change in 2021. And what happened was we used to just have basic aesthetics. Now we have basic and AP. And advanced practice, or AP, allows you to do dermaplaning, chemical peels, micro channeling or micro needling. So a little bit more advanced procedures. The cosmetology board thought you need a bit more time in training. So they added on a certain number of hours. I believe it's 600. I might have them confused, 500 or 600. And that allowed for more time to actually train. In franchising, though, what we're seeing is, I'll use the state of Florida, for example. They have a minimum, or they have a number of hours, and it's 250.
Rather than the 500 or 600 here?
1,100 total here.
1100.
So it's a varying degree. So what we really did at Face Foundry is we double down on the training, and especially the ops training. Anything we can send out for pre-work to make sure that everybody leaving our doors is at a level that we feel comfortable with to offer consistency, because 250 is very different than 1,100.
So rather than making a push to try to make Minnesota spend less time, you've been trying to put extra resource in Florida to make sure people are as prepared as they need to be working on the ground.
We put it in at Face Foundry to make sure that we're training them at operations training. So it's quite a bit longer than I think people expect, because we want to make sure that even if your school didn't have this kind of training, you're still getting it somewhere.
Interesting. If you could design an optimal number of hours or level, what would it be?
I would say it's probably between 700 and 800 hours. I think sometimes it gets a little excessive, and there's a lot of, classroom work that I think gets a little redundant. But on the flip side, I also think that anything under 500 is also a bit questionable, in my opinion.
So like a Goldilocks of Florida and Minnesota,
Yep.
right in the middle.
Yep.
You guys are going heavy into AI. You were starting to tell me a little bit more about that. Can you tell me a little bit more about when you made the decision to start building on a bunch of that stuff and what you guys are building?
Yeah, so very excited. We are launching our skin scanning device, and it's a device that takes a scan and a read of different parts of your skin, and it pulls it into our app, and it tells you different recommendations based on your skin score for products and services. And that has been something we've been working on for the last 18 months. So it's been a long time coming. Excited to see that it's finally here and it's, came to fruition. That is launching in all of our stores in August. We've also been tapping into inventory management, which is not inclusive for just Face Foundry. I feel like a lot of franchisors are doing inventory management with AI right now to make sure that we're allocating the correct capital per store for the different SKUs we offer.
And that's really, you think that's going to allow you guys to take a big leap forward and just how you're managing your inventory.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if I want to get a face scan,
Yeah.
I have to do it in one of your stores.
We actually are doing a lot of the skin scanning at a lot of pop up events too, just to introduce the brand. And then obviously you get access to the app and you can always trace back your readings or your scans and the different hydration scores that you had.
Wow, hydration. So take me through the hydration score part of that.
So it actually maps out a bunch of different factors. It'll pull pore size, it'll pull hydration, any sort of lines and wrinkles. So there's a lot of different factors, and it'll spit out a skin score based on a few different elements. Hydration is just the one I think of the most as we're kind of chatting about drinking, liquid collagen,
Hmm.
and what people tend to resonate with the most.
Fascinating. I would be terrified to find out my own skin score, but I suppose I should probably know it at some point.
You should. And it changes seasonally, so it might be a little bit better, in May than it is in the middle of December.
Now that the sun is shining a little bit.
Kind of, yeah.
Um, have you had any franchisee relationships that you were optimistic about but didn't go well? And if so, what did that look like?
I love our franchisees. I mean, I feel like I have a really good rapport with our franchisees.
All of them?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, they
Wow.
all have my cell phone. They can call me if there's a problem. I encourage it. Like, we'll get on a call or a Zoom, we'll chat through it. And I think that's what makes you better. It's not always been rainbows and butterflies where we're not, talking through stuff or working through things, but that's how we become a really strong system. So I'm trying to think. No, I can't think of anyone where, if anything, we had a vendor. I'll just use this story. We had a vendor and she was a rep, and we were parting ways with this vendor. And they were bummed out that we were parting ways, but we ended amicably and we worked, through it, and we kind of figured out how to dissolve that. She signed on to be a franchisee. She was like, I liked so much the exposure I had to Face Foundry at that time that I want to be part of this system, which I think is just really amazing and, speaks to her level of professionalism and ultimately the overall brand. But yeah, that's probably the best example I have.
Interesting.
I also have our former bookkeeper decided, he wanted to join as a franchisee. So we've got kind of these random folks that have just had exposure to the brand in different ways that are like, I want to be a part of this community.
It's a pretty good endorsement. The bookkeeper is like, looks good. I'm in.
Yeah. Now he's out in Denver.
That's great. Um, where are you guys headed? I mean, do you have a target number of stores you want to try to get to? Do you even know, or is it just sort of building and seeing where things go?
We lean heavily on a real estate platform that we have where we map out, we use a lot of different variables. We look at density, our demographics. We'll then hone in on our most successful stores and really try to see, let's geo target who's coming in, why is it working, and how many locations like this are throughout the United States. So I have a pretty good idea. And I think that we still have a lot of work to do, to get to a nationwide brand. I think that we're going to get there in the next 5 years, but we definitely have a lot more to take on as far as territories.
Are there any markets you're not in yet that you're really eager to jump into?
Um, We don't have any locations yet in New York City or LA. We've had a lot of inbounds, a lot of inquiries, trying to be really strategic with those markets because it's not just a 2-pack or a 5-pack even. You have to go in with some strategy. So those are probably the two on the top of my list. But then we have other markets that I'm so excited about that are opening this year. We've got a bunch in California. We've got San Diego opening this year. We've got another one going up in Nashville, quite a few on the East Coast, Miami, um, Charlotte. So quite a few that I'm like very excited about that aren't like, the New Yorks or the LAs, but they're going to be really fun and make a big statement.
Yeah. So somebody comes to you and they say, I've got a $500,000. I'm thinking about starting an independent business, or I'm thinking about franchising with you guys. What is the case that you make for why they should work with Face Foundry?
So I would want to understand, are they are they wanting to go out on their own?
Mhm.
Because if you have that inkling, sometimes franchising isn't the best option. Like most of the time, we've got franchisees that come to us because they want that playbook. They want all of the marketing assets. You don't realize behind the scenes how much actually goes into photo shoots and creating all the graphics and then finding the collateral and how to print it, merchandise, the products, and how they all work together. I mean, our facial protocols are dialed in, and it is really hard to get there. Trust me, it's taken me 7 years and we still work through a process. So I would definitely want to understand like what their goals are, because if they've started their own businesses before and that's what they know, it might not be the right approach. But if they want that playbook and that blueprint, and want to be a part of something bigger, that's where we'd kind of dive a little bit deeper.
What do you say to somebody who is starting up their own business, who wants to potentially leave the door open for franchising down the road? What are
Yeah,
some things that they should be thinking about before day one?
that's a great question. Making sure you have cost containment and that you understand your P&L through and through, because you can have the best idea in the world for a business, but if you don't have the metrics to back it up, it really doesn't have legs. I would say the second component, and probably the most important in franchising, when you go to franchise, your first 10 franchisees, they are your brand. Right? Think of it as, you think about, I think it was Steve Jobs said the first 10 employees that you have in a business make or break it. I truly believe the franchisees you bring in your brand, the first 10 that execute, they are going to be the definition of who that system is or can be. We got really lucky. Our franchisees, our veteran franchisees are unbelievable. They are fantastic. They give great feedback. They have shaped the brand 100% into where it is now. So I don't take credit, because truly it's because of them. So I would say hone in and make sure those franchisees, those initial franchisees, are fantastic.
So, it's pretty clear that you're kind of, this is your dream, this is what you want to do the rest of your career. When you're thinking about that and you're thinking about, okay, you're here the rest of your career, you build this into whatever it can become. What would an exit for you look like at the end of that? Do you think it's selling the business to somebody? Do you think it's like just imagine down the road?
Hmm, that's a good question. One I don't know. Are they wheeling me out of the office at
I
that
don't know.
exit? I feel
You're
like,
in charge.
I
You
mean, I feel like I truly, I love this business. Even my kids, they'll come and they'll help work and they'll stock the shelves, and they're like getting great exposure on what it takes to run a business. So I don't know if I have that answer. It's a great question, but I would think that a lot of things would have to change from where we are now
Mhm.
for me to want to leave.
Yeah.
Like, I get up every day, usually it's between 4:30 and 5, and I am thinking about our business, how we can make it better. I'm analyzing it. I love the innovation. Like, I'm so excited. I'm going over to South Korea in a few months. Like, there's so much innovation in skincare, and I love being at the forefront of it. So I think a lot would have to change for me to be like, I want to step away.
Um, Take us through your routine. You have kids.
I
You
do.
wake up 4:30 or 5. Like, what are the things that you do? Kind of. to prepare for the day before they're all up, and like what does your morning look like?
Yeah. So I get up usually at 4:30, and between 4:30 and 6:30 before my kids are awake. I always have coffee. I get up and I can usually do almost a day's worth of work in those 2 hours.
Wow.
I am insanely productive. Don't worry, it starts to go down after about 6:30, you know, past 9 a.m. It's like it deteriorates. But um, typical day, I usually have to do something active in the mornings. So I'm either running or I'm doing yoga, or it's at some point in my day I have to be active. I am very crazy about supplements. So I take a lot of supplements. I drink the collagen water, take creatine, and then after the kids drops, I'm off to the races. So back to back meetings in our HQ in Eden Prairie. Um, and then every night I try to always kind of wind down with either a meditation or some sort of podcast. I've been really into Wayne Dyer lately because I
Mm,
just love him. And then I always do red light therapy at night.
got it. Would you ever want your kids to work at the business?
It's funny, they brought that up the other day, and I was not expecting it. Like, they were like, "Oh, I can't wait until I get to do that." I'm like, "Oh, okay," because I grew up in a family business, and my dad, I he would love if I would have taken that over, and it just wasn't the dream for me. So, it surprised me when my kids said that.
What was your family business growing up?
So, we built in-ground pools. So, my dad still has the business in Matamidi, Paragon
Amazing.
Pools. Yep.
Did you guys have a conversation at any point where you were like, "This is not the thing that I want to do"?
I think it was pretty glaringly obvious when I went into apparel design and merchandising. He was like, "Oh, you don't wanna man the construction crews
Got it.
anymore?"
Yeah. Message received.
Yes, I
Yep.
think that was the case.
Yep. Do you feel like though growing up around sort of an entrepreneur kind of shaped who you were?
100%. I learned more from my parents and watching them operate that business. I learned what kind of hustle and grit went into it, and you have to be passionate. So, because I mean, there were times I don't think we ever had a dinner conversation that wasn't about business.
Mm.
It was always mentioned. So, I learned a lot about their business and ultimately what it took to go into, making it work.
Do you remember any of those early ones, like a particular business conversation or issue that came up and kind of just something that you learned from it?
It was always around service. Like, I remember my parents were so good about offering gifts to their customers. So it was always, "Oh, make sure so and so comes in, give them this complimentary." And I always remembered that and I picked up on that. So we actually have in FACE Foundry member perks. So it's a surprise member gift that you get each month. And usually they are great little vendor, small samples. Next month is actually a hat, which is really cute. People are very excited about that. So that kind of that thought of making sure that that level of customer service was always very like attended to. I think that's where it started.
That's great. Do you talk to them about your business problems now?
No.
Just all parent-child relationship?
Yeah, I do listen to, my dad has quite a few rental properties, so we talk a lot about real estate.
Mm,
And we'll chat maybe best practices and management, but not often. I think franchising is just a little bit different than construction.
yeah. Who do you talk to when you have a problem that, nobody maybe at your company can solve? Like, are there people that you tap for, your CEO problems that you feel like you need somebody in sort of a similar boat to talk to about them?
So I am part of YPO, and that has completely changed my life. I love my forum. My forum mates are all very fantastic, high functioning executives, usually presidents, CEOs, or owners of their companies. So being able to kind of download with them has been fantastic. And then of course like the reach that YPO has on a global scale is pretty phenomenal.
What would you say is the best thing that you've learned from that peer group?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say no matter what, you'll figure out a solution. Like there's not a problem or topic that we have talked about where we haven't been able to dilute and figure out a solve. And it's always great because it's always coming from someone that you never thought about that angle. So I would say you'll always be able to get to a solution.
How do you personally stay up on beauty trends? And even if there's things that you guys don't want to offer, don't want to do, are there, how do you feel like you get feedback on just staying on top of, what's cool and what people want?
For sure. Well, lucky for me, Instagram has a pretty insane algorithm because they've figured it out and they are constantly pinging me with different innovations. But we're always asking our members and our franchisees, like, we're sending out surveys. We want to know, what do you want to see? What's missing? What's lacking? And our franchisees are fantastic about providing feedback. We have a franchise advisory council, so we run everything by them. Lucky for us, actually, the esthetician, the Nashville franchisee who just got her aesthetics license that I referenced, she's on that. So she gets to
There you go.
provide deep insight, but it's constantly asking for feedback. And I started our last year convention by saying feedback is a gift, and I truly believe that. We're soliciting feedback from many different avenues.
Great. Well, Michele, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
That's all the time we have for today. I want to give a big thanks to Gabe Noah, Keely Doyle, Ali Alt, Connor O'Neill, and Mike Novak for all your work behind the scenes. We will see you next time.